Hello, folks. In the last lecture, we discussed the evolutionary line of plants. And if you remember, there were non-vascular plants such as your algae and your moss. Remember, those are the low-growing ones. You have your vascular non-seed plants like the ferns. And then you have the vascular seed plants like the trees and the flowers. In this lecture, you're going to learn what adaptations plants had to make in order to survive on dry land. Our discussion is going to focus around three topics: leaves, stems, leaves, stems and roots, and seeds. The lecture after this is going to go into more detail about seeds, flowers, and cones. There are a few basic things to understand before we begin. All vascular seed plants have a basic structure. They have a root system and a shoot system. The root system anchors the plant into the ground and provides a way for water and nutrients to be taken into the plant. The shoot system is composed of the stem and the leaves. The point where the leaves attach to the stem are called nodes. At the nodes, you might also notice auxiliary buds. At the top, the growth area of the shoot, you'll find the apical bud. Leaves are composed of two main parts. The petiole is the straight part that looks like the stem and attaches to the leaf of the stem. The blade is the part of the leaf that allows for gas exchange and the main site of where photosynthesis takes place. This image above is really good at showing you where these things are happening in the plant. Now, vascular plants contain something called vascular tissue. Vascular tissue includes the xylem and the phloem, and you can see those up there at the top. It can sometimes be hard to remember which one does what, and I remember each one of them by thinking that phloem begins with the same sound as food. This may seem a bit silly, but it helps me remember. Phloem then transports sugars and organic compounds, food, down from the site of photosynthesis for plant growth. Xylem transports water and minerals upwards through the plant and into the leaves, allowing the cells of the plants to do their work. Now, leaves come in many sizes and shapes. Some leaves, such as in this picture, are broad, while others are needle-shaped. All of the leaves perform photosynthesis. So we don't often think about pine trees as having leaves, but they do. And you don't necessarily think of cactus as having leaves, but they do as well. Now, in order for leaves to be able to adapt to not being wet or in moist environments, leaves had to develop a way to retain water, allowing the plant cells to function without drying out. Leaves then are covered with something called a waxy cuticle. In some leaves, this is really visible. Have you ever seen like a jade plant? The waxy cuticle is really thick and shiny looking. Other leaves do not have as thick of a cuticle, but they still provide the inside of the leaf protection from drying out. The waxy cuticle then lies on the outside of the leaf. You might think of it as the skin of the leaf. This is a diagram of the side view of a leaf. Note the waxy cuticle protecting the inside of the leaf. You can see that the xylem and phloem are protected inside this cuticle. You can also see the stomata. Now, if you remember back to when we studied cellular respiration, you might remember us talking about stomata. Stomata are the site of gas exchange in a plant. These are small openings in the leaf that allow oxygen in and the carbon dioxide out. Plants that lose the excess water that is made during cellular respiration lose that through the stoma. Now, here's a blown-up diagram of stomata. On the left side, the stoma are open. This means that the plant is allowing gas exchange. The one on the right is closed, so gas is not being exchanged and water is not being lost. Let's look at the parts of the stoma. Note the guard cells are on the sides of the stoma. When water is in abundant supply, when there's lots of water around, the guard cells swell and they open the stoma. Photosynthesis and cellular respiration then take place. Remember, water is needed for photosynthesis. When water is limited, the guard cells shrink and the stoma closes. This preserves the water inside the plant, but at the same time, it's not letting photosynthesis take place and the gas to be exchanged. Another adaptation for land are stems and roots. As stated earlier, roots allow the plants to embed in the ground and hold the plant firm into the soil. The stem allows the plant to grow upwards and remain strong. Can you look at for the nodes and the apical buds, maybe even the petioles and the blades in the images on the left? Now inside the stem, you're going to find the xylem and the phloem. Note that the xylem is transporting water and minerals up, while the phloem is transporting sugars made from photosynthesis downwards. The cambium is where the xylem and phloem cells are made. Now this is a cutaway image of a tree trunk. Note the vascular cambium, the site of xylem and phloem cell production. You can also see where the phloem resides. And on the outside you can see the bark and what's called the cork. Now at the end of the root is something called the apical meristem. This, just like the tip of the stem, is the site of great growth. The apical meristem grows cells that push the cell cap deeper and outward in the soil. The root cap here actually protects this fast-growing area as it dives into the dirt. Note in this picture there's a lot of root hairs around this growing a plant here. We may be able to take a look at some of these when we start growing our plants. Now, these root hairs greatly increase the surface area of the root, and they allow more water and dissolved minerals to be able to enter into the plant. This picture shows a bunch of different kinds of roots that you're probably familiar with. The taproot, which is like your carrots, actually stores foods in its root. This includes plants that we eat, such as these carrots here that are shown, and other ones. A fibrous root system, like the one on the far right, are found in weeds and grasses. And you know that when you pull on these, that they're very hard to get up, and that's because they have this huge, vast root structure. Whenever they do come out, they actually take a bunch of soil with them. Prop roots do not extend far into the soil. These include things such as corn, if you've ever seen corn growing, or even mangrove trees. Now, seeds are another adaptation for land. Where plants were in water and moist soils, the male and the female gametophytes could easily join together. Without water, however, these gametophytes would dry out and not be able to join and grow into a plant. In order to survive on land, then, plants had to produce seeds. Seeds provide a protective coat around the growing embryo until there's enough moisture to actually begin to grow. Some seeds can actually last for years without water, and they only emerge whenever water is present. Tomorrow we're going to investigate, or next time we meet, we'll investigate some of these adaptations and take a look at them. We're also going to be starting your lab where we're going to start growing some plants so that we can see some of these things such as root hairs and the shoots as they come up.